One ordinary Wednesday morning, third-grade teacher Justine Gandandi walks into Maybrook Elementary, expecting a normal day. But as she opens the classroom door, her heart just stops. Out of 18 students, only one is there. Alex Lilly, the quiet, reserved boy who never causes trouble. The other 17 children have vanished without a trace. Panic sets in immediately. Police investigations begin, and home security footage reveals something chilling. At exactly 2:17 a.m., each missing child gets out of bed and runs out of their house, arms stretched forward, as if pulled by an invisible force. No explanation, no warning, just an eerie, synchronized disappearance. Justine watches in horror, realizing this is not just a missing children case. Something far darker is unfolding, and the city she thought was safe has suddenly become a puzzle filled with fear, mystery, and unimaginable danger. The days after the disappearance are filled with tension and suspicion. The school remains closed for nearly a month while detectives scramble for answers, but no solid leads emerge. When Maybrook Elementary finally reopens, Principal Marcus calls a meeting with parents and teachers to address the crisis. What should have been a calm discussion explodes into chaos. Archer, a desperate father whose son Matthew is missing, lashes out at the authorities, and then his anger turns to Justine. The crowd's eyes lock on her, convinced she's hiding something. Accusations fly, voices rise, and panic mingles with anger. Justine, bewildered and scared, tries to defend herself, but no one listens. The meeting collapses into chaos, leaving her humiliated and shaken. That night, alone and terrified, she steps outside and finds her car vandalized. The threats are escalating, and it's becoming clear someone, or something, is targeting her, and the danger is far from over. The following morning, Justine refuses to back down. Principal Marcus urges her to take a leave of absence and see a therapist, warning that the stress could be too much. But she insists that teaching is the only thing keeping her grounded. She requests permission to speak with Alex, the one child who remained, hoping he might hold a clue. Marcus reminds her that any contact could spark another scandal, and strictly forbids it, also reprimanding her for crossing professional boundaries in the past. Shaken but determined, Justine files a police report about the vandalism and threats she's received. Outside the station, she unexpectedly spots her ex-husband, Paul, a police officer. Their encounter is brief, but, it's charged with all this unspoken tension. That evening, over drinks, they talk more honestly than they have in years, kind of bridging a fragile connection amid the chaos that's consuming the city and, the missing children. Later that day, Justine takes matters into her own hands. Unable to ignore the unease that's been gnawing at her, she secretly follows Alex home after school. When she rings the doorbell and knocks, no one answers. The windows are covered with newspaper, giving the house this, sinister, abandoned look. Driven by fear and curiosity, she sneaks through the side gate and peers in through a window. What she sees stops her cold. Alex's parents sit motionless on the couch, eerily still, almost like wax figures. Horrified, she calls Marcus to report what she saw, but he just flies into a rage, reminding her she's forbidden from contacting the boy, and then, abruptly hangs up. Justine is left shaken, realizing that something unnatural is controlling not just the children, but the very adults around them. The mystery deepens, and the stakes grow higher. She's no longer just a teacher trying to protect her students. She's staring into a web of dark forces she barely understands. That evening, Justine's life takes another terrifying turn. While she's trying to process what she's seen, her phone rings from an unknown number. A chilling female voice warns her to be careful, and it sends, honestly, shivers down her spine. Moments later, someone rings her doorbell, but when she looks outside, no one is there. Then, a loud banging echoes through her house. Grabbing her stun gun, she steps outside, only to find her car vandalized and, completely wrecked by unknown attackers. The next morning, Marcus suggests she take a leave of absence and see a therapist, but Justine refuses, insisting her job is what keeps her grounded. She requests to speak with Alex, but Marcus warns that any contact might spark another scandal with the parents. Justine realizes she is trapped between her responsibility to the children and forces she cannot explain. Threats from unknown enemies, supernatural events, and a community quick to judge her. The tension is mounting, and danger is closer than ever. Determined not to back down, Justine files a police report about the vandalism and the threatening phone call. Outside the station, she spots her ex-husband, Paul, a police officer, and waves. That evening, they meet at a bar. Despite their complicated past, Paul admits he wanted to check on her after everything with the children. Their conversation is tense but gradually softens, revealing shared worries and regrets. One drink leads to another, and their emotions get the better of them. They spend the night together. The next morning, as Justine gives Paul a ride back to his car, she casually asks about the investigation. Paul shuts down, clearly frustrated, reminding her he isn't a detective and insisting the team is doing all they can. Justine leaves with more questions than answers, her trust in those around her wavering, and the sense that every relationship, every interaction, could have hidden dangers. Unable to shake her concern, Justine secretly follows Alex home after school. She rings the doorbell, knocks, but no one answers. All the windows are covered with newspaper, giving the house an eerie, abandoned feel. Peering through a side window, she freezes. Alex's parents sit motionless on the couch like wax figures. Panic rises in her chest as she calls Principal Marcus, describing what she saw. Marcus is furious, reminding her that she's forbidden from contacting Alex, and abruptly hangs up. Later, at a local store, she runs into Paul's wife, Donna, who angrily confronts her about the affair. The encounter escalates into a shouting match, only narrowly avoided from turning physical by a store clerk. That night, Justine has a chilling dream, walking through empty school hallways, all the children asleep at their desks. Alex lifts his head, eyes unblinking. Justine jolts awake, drenched in sweat, only to see the dark silhouette of a woman on her ceiling. Terrified, she screams, but when she looks again, no one is there. The next day, Justine approaches Alex cautiously, asking how he's doing. The boy replies curtly that he's fine, but when she tries to get him to say more, Alex suddenly yells for her not to follow him and runs off. Determined to understand what's happening, Justine drives to Alex's house and waits in her car, eyes fixed on the front door. Hours pass, night falls, and she dozes off from exhaustion. Suddenly, the front door swings open, and Alex's mother steps out, scissors in hand, her expression blank and vacant. Silently, she snips a strand of Justine's hair and returns inside, leaving Justine horrified and confused. This terrifying encounter pushes Justine to confront the reality. Something unnatural is controlling the children and their families. It's no longer just about missing kids. It's about an invisible force reshaping lives right under everyone's noses. Meanwhile, Archer, Matthew's father, becomes consumed by obsession. Every night he replays the security footage from his son's home, studying every frame with the precision of a detective. Owning a construction company, he notices small anomalies, like a door painted red instead of forest green, and begins to connect these odd details to the disappearances. Frustrated with slow police progress, he confronts Chief Ed, accusing him of protecting Justine, the prime suspect in his eyes. But Ed reveals a crucial observation. The children left their homes on their own. No one forced them. Archer's suspicion shifts from the teacher to a larger, more mysterious pattern. Determined to uncover the truth, he secretly follows Justine, discovering that she's been caught in the chaos as much as anyone. The city's normalcy is shattered, and the puzzle of the children's movements grows deeper and darker. That night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., Archer is jolted awake by his alarm clock. He glances outside and, to his shock, sees Matthew running down the street in that same strange, robotic manner he saw on the footage. Archer quickly throws on his shoes and chases after him, darting through the familiar streets of his neighborhood. But somehow, no matter which way he turns, he ends up right back at his own house. The boy disappears inside, and that's when Archer looks up and notices a glowing, rifle-shaped object hanging in the sky, marked with the numbers 217. Terrified and confused, he bursts into Matthew's room, only to find, not his son, but a woman lying on the bed, her smile chilling and completely unnatural. The whole incident leaves Archer shaken to his core, questioning reality itself. Still reeling from the night's events, Archer spreads a city map across his table and uses a ruler to carefully trace the exact paths the children took that night. He notices that the lines from different homes all intersect at a single, unfamiliar point, a clue that maybe, just maybe, hints at a central source behind the children's eerie transformation. The city, which once felt so ordinary, now seems like a labyrinth controlled by some unseen force. Determined to uncover the truth, Archer drives to the home of another missing child, Bailey. At first, her mother refuses to show him the security footage, but after Archer's persistence, her father finally agrees. Watching the video, Archer sees the same bizarre pattern. Bailey, just like Matthew, runs in a straight, almost mechanical line, arms outstretched as if she's following an invisible command. Archer traces these paths on his map, and the lines all converge at that single, mysterious location. That afternoon, Archer spots Justine at a gas station and, feeling desperate, decides to follow her, demanding answers. Justine snaps at him, telling him to leave her alone. Suddenly, Marcus, the school principal, emerges from the trees nearby, moving with the same rigid, eerie posture as the missing children. In a terrifying moment, he lunges at Justine, knocking her down and beginning to strangle her. Archer rushes in to help, but Marcus turns on him instead. The whole situation spirals into chaos, and it becomes clear that the danger is no longer limited to the children. It's spreading, and no one is safe. Meanwhile, Paul is caught in his own web of complications. On the phone with his wife Donna, he lies about attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and pretends, that everything is normal at home. Later, while on patrol, he spots a suspicious young man named James and decides to pursue him, first by car, then on foot. During the confrontation, Paul finds a used syringe and, oh man, accidentally pricks his finger, sending him into a panic. In the confusion, he lashes out, hitting James, then rushes to his car to tend to his wound. Realizing his actions were recorded on the dash cam, Paul returns to James, trying to make amends. Although shaken, he warns James not to return to the area. At the station, Chief Ed is already aware of the incident and reassures Paul that, as long as James doesn't file a complaint, the incriminating footage will disappear in about a month. This event adds another layer of tension and really shows how fear and desperation can push even trained officers right to the edge. At the same time, Justine reconnects with Paul, meeting him at a bar even though she knows the risks. One thing leads to another, and they end up spending the night together. The next morning, she gives him a ride back, trying to casually discuss the investigation, but Paul just shuts down, clearly irritated. Later, Justine secretly follows Alex home, only to find the windows covered with newspaper. Sneaking in through the side gate, she peers inside and freezes. Alex's parents are sitting motionless on the couch, like wax figures. Horrified, she calls Principal Marcus, who angrily reminds her she's forbidden from contacting the boy and abruptly hangs up. The tension escalates as Justine realizes there's a much darker force at play, one that controls not just the children, but also the adults around them. This revelation pushes her to act, despite all the warnings, setting the stage for the confrontation that will uncover the true nature of the threat. Meanwhile, Archer, Matthew's father, becomes obsessed with uncovering the truth. Every night he reviews home security footage, searching for clues. One night he notices a small detail, a door painted red instead of green, and realizes it might be connected to the children's mysterious behavior. He confronts Police Chief Ed, accusing him of protecting Justine, claiming her past mistakes make her suspicious. Ed explains that the footage shows the children leaving on their own, not forced. Undeterred, Archer follows Justine secretly and uncovers that she's being targeted and harassed for the case. At 2:17 a.m., he witnesses Matthew running outside in a straight path, as if drawn by an invisible force. Archer starts mapping the children's movements across the city, discovering they all converge at one central point. This pattern reveals a chilling orchestration behind the disappearances, intensifying the urgency to act before more lives are endangered. Justine decides to take matters into her own hands. She follows Alex secretly, hoping to understand what's happening at his home. Peering through the windows, she discovers his parents frozen like wax figures, completely still and unresponsive. Terrified and confused, she calls Principal Marcus, who angrily reminds her she's forbidden from contacting the boy. Her concern grows when she runs into Paul's wife, Donna, who confronts her about the affair, escalating tensions even further. That night, Justine experiences a nightmare. She's walking through empty school hallways, seeing all the children asleep, until Alex lifts his head and just stares at her with unblinking eyes. She wakes up drenched in sweat, only to glimpse a dark silhouette on her ceiling, which vanishes when she screams. Justine realizes that the situation is far beyond ordinary explanation. The children in Alex's family are under some unnatural influence, and she's now dangerously close to uncovering a truth that could cost her everything. The next day, Justine tries to talk to Alex, but the boy is, unusually quiet and withdrawn. Suddenly, he yells at her not to follow him and then just runs off. Worried, Justine waits outside his house, keeping watch from her car as night begins to fall. Out of nowhere, Alex's mother steps outside, holding a pair of scissors with a blank expression on her face. She silently cuts a strand of Justine's hair before heading back inside, leaving Justine stunned and confused. Meanwhile, Archer, who is Matthew's father, obsessively reviews security footage from the night his son disappeared. He notices something strange. The children are running in straight lines, almost like they're being guided by an unseen force. Driven by determination, Archer starts retracing their paths across the city, drawing lines on a map that all intersect at one mysterious central point. The tension is really mounting as Justine and Archer both inch closer to the truth, beginning to realize that the missing children and their families are being controlled in ways that just defy logic. Someone, or maybe something, is orchestrating these events from the shadows. Justine decides to secretly follow Alex home, hoping to find some answers. She notices that all the windows are covered with newspaper, and when she peers inside, she freezes. Alex's parents are just sitting motionless on the couch, so still they almost look like wax figures. Feeling uneasy, Justine calls Principal Marcus for help, but he sternly reminds her that she's forbidden from contacting Alex, cutting off any immediate assistance. Meanwhile, James, a homeless teen and a petty thief, stumbles into the very same house, just trying to get out of the rain. As he feels his way through the darkness, he comes across the frozen children in the basement, and the sight absolutely terrifies him. The house seems alive with some kind of unnatural presence, and James barely escapes, completely shaken. Later, he finds a missing children flyer and suddenly realizes the awful connection. In a panic, he calls the police, insisting that he knows where the kids are. This desperate call sets off a chain of events that will bring Justine, Archer, Paul, and James all closer to the truth, and dangerously close to the sinister force that's controlling the children. At the police station, James spots Officer Paul and, in a panic, bolts into the nearby woods. He hides in a tent, clutching a syringe like a weapon, convinced that Paul is actually the mysterious woman he saw earlier. When Paul opens the tent, James, desperate and terrified, stabs him in the face. Enraged, Paul draws his gun, but James pleads for mercy, insisting that he knows the location of the missing children. Hesitant but desperate, Paul decides to follow James back to Alex's house, stepping right into a situation that's way more complicated than he could have ever imagined. Meanwhile, Principal Marcus is contacted by Justine, who shares her suspicions about what's happening at Alex's home. Marcus promises to check on the family, setting up a tense convergence of all the key players around the epicenter of the children's strange behavior and the dark influence that seems to be controlling them. That evening, Alex, sensing the danger, gets ready to run as Justine and Archer plan their next move outside his house. Inside, Gladys's dark influence has a firm grip on Paul, leaving him hypnotized and ready to attack. Alex knows that crossing certain boundaries, like the line of salt, will trigger immediate aggression from anyone under her control. Suddenly, chaos erupts. Paul lunges at Justine, James attacks Archer, and Justine fights desperately to defend herself. Alex reacts quickly, barricading himself in his aunt's room to stay safe. Amid all the confusion, he discovers Gladys's stick, the very tool she uses to control others. Realizing its power, Alex starts to understand how the adults and children have been manipulated, and this sets the stage for a climactic confrontation that will decide the fate of all the children, and honestly, the entire town itself. With the stick in hand, Alex bravely mirrors Gladys's manipulations. He targets her control over the adults, including Archer, who is forced to strangle Justine. Step by step, Alex breaks the spell, freeing both Justine and the other children trapped in her dark influence. The children, once turned into predators, regain awareness, and fueled by anger and fear, turn on Gladys. The chase spills into the streets, the children relentless in confronting the source of their torment. Gladys tries to flee, but the united children surround her, finally overpowering her. In this decisive moment, the ancient evil is destroyed by those it sought to dominate. The power of Gladys's magic collapses instantly, and the children and adults under her spell are liberated, bringing an end to the terror that gripped the city for so long. In the aftermath, the children slowly begin to recover from Gladys's control. Archer, horrified at his own actions while under the spell, rushes to find his son Matthew, emotions tangled with relief, fear, and guilt. Justine, still catching her breath, approaches Alex, whose eyes show the trauma he endured, but whose body is unharmed. The children are free, but the psychological scars remain. Alex's parents, having been under Gladys's influence for so long, are left mentally damaged, requiring long-term care in a specialized facility. Meanwhile, Alex is taken in by a compassionate aunt, who provides the stability and love he needs to heal. Gradually, the missing children return to their families, beginning the slow process of reintegration and recovery, reminding everyone that while evil can be defeated, the emotional consequences linger long after the physical threat is gone. The final moments of the story focus on reflection and cautious hope. Alex settles into a new life with his aunt, surrounded by safety and understanding, while the other children return to their families, gradually rediscovering normal routines. Yet, the town remains changed. Parents, teachers, and officials now realize that vigilance isn't just about rules or routines. It's about recognizing the unseen, the unexpected, and sometimes the inexplicable. Justine, scarred but stronger, becomes a symbol of resilience, proving that courage often comes from the willingness to act even when fear is overwhelming. The children's ordeal leaves a lasting mark, showing that survival doesn't erase trauma, and ordinary lives can be forever altered by extraordinary events. What would you do if faced with the unimaginable? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you were captivated, and subscribe to explore more stories that blur the line between reality and the supernatural.